Thousands of years ago, in a world without hard drives, libraries, or even paper, entire civilizations found ways to ensure their knowledge wouldn't vanish into the sands of time. What if I told you that the very survival of human progress, our understanding of math, science, art, and even governance, depended on the ingenious methods these ancient societies created to preserve their wisdom? From whispered stories passed down through generations to massive stone monuments that still stand today, the ways they protected their knowledge are nothing short of extraordinary. In this video, we're diving deep into the incredible techniques ancient civilizations used to safeguard their legacy, uncovering not just how they did it, but why their methods still resonate with us in the modern world. Get ready to explore the secrets of the past and discover what they can teach us about preserving the future. Imagine a world without books, scrolls, or even the faintest trace of writing. How did ancient civilizations ensure their stories, wisdom, and histories survived the test of time? The answer lies in the power of the human voice. Long before the invention of writing systems, oral traditions were the lifeblood of knowledge preservation. Storytellers, poets, and elders became the living libraries of their communities, weaving together the threads of culture, history, and survival through spoken word. These oral traditions weren't just casual retellings, they were carefully crafted narratives, often structured with rhythm, rhyme, and repetition to make them easier to remember. Think of it like a song you can't get out of your head. The Vedas, ancient sacred texts of India, are a prime example. For centuries, they were passed down orally, word for word, by generations of scholars who memorized every syllable. This wasn't just about preserving religious teachings. It was about safeguarding an entire civilization's identity and wisdom. But oral traditions weren't limited to sacred texts. They carried practical knowledge too. How to navigate by the stars, which plants were safe to eat, how to survive a harsh winter. These were lessons embedded in stories and songs. Elders became the keepers of this knowledge, ensuring that each generation learned from the experiences of those who came before, and because these traditions were alive, they could adapt. A story told in one village might evolve slightly in another, reflecting the unique challenges or triumphs of that community. What's fascinating is how these oral traditions laid the groundwork for written records. When writing systems eventually emerged, they didn't replace oral storytelling, they complemented it. The stories that had been memorized for generations were now etched into stone, clay, or parchment, creating a permanent record. But even then, the oral tradition didn't disappear. It continued to thrive, offering a dynamic, living connection to the past that written words alone couldn't capture. So, the next time you hear a story passed down in your own family or community, remember, you're part of a tradition that stretches back thousands of years. Oral storytelling wasn't just a way to preserve knowledge, it was a way to keep cultures alive, vibrant, and connected across time, and in many ways it still is. The invention of writing didn't just change the way people communicated, it changed the very fabric of human history. Picture this: thousands of years ago, in the fertile lands of Mesopotamia, someone pressed a reed into wet clay, leaving behind a series of wedge-shaped marks. This simple act gave birth to cuneiform, one of the world's first writing systems. Around the same time, along the Nile River, Egyptian scribes were carving intricate symbols into stone, creating hieroglyphs that would become a cornerstone of their culture. These early systems weren't just about recording words, they were tools for preserving ideas, laws, and stories in a way that could outlast the fleeting nature of memory. But why did writing emerge in the first place? The answer lies in the needs of growing societies. As cities expanded and trade flourished, people needed ways to keep track of transactions, laws, and religious practices. Cuneiform, for example, began as a method for recording trade goods, how many sheep were exchanged, or how much grain was stored. Over time, it evolved into a complex system capable of capturing poetry, myths, and even mathematical calculations. Similarly, Egyptian hieroglyphs started as pictorial representations, but soon became a sophisticated script used for everything from royal decrees to funerary texts. Writing became a bridge between the spoken word and the eternal, allowing knowledge to be passed down through generations. The impact of these early writing systems was profound. They didn't just serve practical purposes, they shaped the identities of entire civilizations. Laws like the Code of Hammurabi, inscribed in cuneiform, provided a legal framework that influenced societies far beyond Mesopotamia. Meanwhile, hieroglyphs adorned the walls of temples and tombs, preserving the spiritual beliefs and achievements of ancient Egypt. These systems also laid the groundwork for future languages. The Phoenician alphabet, for instance, borrowed ideas from earlier scripts and became the ancestor of many modern writing systems, including Greek and Latin. What's truly remarkable is how these ancient methods of recording information still echo in our world today. The act of writing, whether on clay tablets, papyrus, or digital screens, remains a powerful tool for preserving knowledge. Early civilizations may not have had the technology we do, but their ingenuity in creating writing systems set the stage for the preservation of culture, science, and history. And as we'll see, their legacy didn't stop there. It influenced the way future societies thought about language, communication, and the very concept of memory. One of the most fascinating aspects of ancient civilizations is how they managed to preserve knowledge in ways that have stood the test of time literally. Take Mesopotamia, for example, where scribes pressed wedge-shaped marks into soft clay tablets, creating cuneiform writing. These tablets weren't just temporary notes, they were baked to harden, turning them into nearly indestructible records. Imagine holding a 4,000-year-old tablet that still bears the story of Gilgamesh or a detailed account of grain harvests. It's like a time capsule, but one that survived floods, wars, and the relentless passage of centuries. Over in Egypt, they took a different approach. Instead of clay, they used papyrus, a material made from the pith of the papyrus plant. This wasn't just paper, it was a marvel of ancient engineering. The plant's fibers were soaked, layered, and pressed into sheets, which were then rolled into scrolls. These scrolls could hold everything from medical treatises to sacred hymns, and they were surprisingly durable. The dry climate of Egypt played a huge role in their preservation. Many of these scrolls have survived in near-perfect condition for thousands of years, giving us incredible insights into ancient Egyptian life. But what's truly remarkable is how these materials were chosen not just for their availability, but for their resilience. Mesopotamians didn't use clay because it was easy. It was heavy, labor-intensive, and required skill to inscribe. Egyptians didn't settle for papyrus because it was cheap. It was a carefully crafted solution to a pressing need for portable, long-lasting records. Both civilizations understood the importance of preserving knowledge, and they invested the time and effort to make sure their records could endure. It's also worth noting the role of scribes in this process. These weren't just writers, they were highly trained professionals who understood the value of the information they were recording. Whether it was a legal contract, a religious text, or an astronomical chart, scribes treated every word with precision. Their work wasn't just about communication, it was about legacy. And thanks to their efforts, we can still read the thoughts, stories, and discoveries of people who lived thousands of years before us. The survival of these records is nothing short of a miracle. Clay tablets buried under layers of earth, papyrus scrolls hidden in tombs. They've endured not just because of the materials used, but because of the care and foresight of the people who created them. It's a testament to the ingenuity and determination of ancient civilizations, and it leaves us with a profound question. What are we doing today to ensure that our knowledge survives for future generations? When we think of the pyramids of Egypt or the towering temples of Mesoamerica, we often marvel at their grandeur and the sheer effort it must have taken to build them. But these monumental structures were far more than just impressive feats of engineering. They were, in a very real sense, ancient hard drives, vast repositories of knowledge meticulously encoded into their very design. From the intricate carvings on their walls to their precise alignments with the stars, these structures served as a bridge between the physical and the spiritual, preserving the wisdom of their creators for future generations. Take the Great Pyramid of Giza, for example. Beyond its iconic shape and massive scale, it's a treasure trove of astronomical knowledge. The pyramid's alignment with the cardinal points of the compass is so precise that it continues to baffle modern engineers. Some researchers believe this alignment wasn't just about symmetry. It was a way to encode information about the Earth's rotation and the movement of celestial bodies. The pyramid's interior shafts, too, seem to point toward specific stars, suggesting that the ancients used these structures as a kind of cosmic map, linking the heavens to the Earth. Then there are the temples of Mesoamerica, like the famous Pyramid of the Sun in Teotihuacan. Here, the architecture isn't just about size or aesthetics, it's a language. The carvings and inscriptions adorning these temples tell stories of gods, kings, and celestial events. The pyramid's alignment with the sun during the equinoxes isn't a coincidence. It's a deliberate act of preserving knowledge about the cycles of time and the seasons. For the people who built these structures, the temple wasn't just a place of worship. It was a living textbook teaching future generations about their cosmology, their rulers, and their connection to the universe. But how did this knowledge stay relevant across centuries? The answer lies in the universality of the symbols and alignments used. Unlike words on a page, which can be lost or mistranslated, the alignment of a pyramid with the stars or the placement of a temple to capture the sun's rays on a specific day is a form of communication that transcends language. It's a message carved in stone, meant to endure. Even if the original builder's language faded away, the knowledge embedded in their architecture could still be decoded by anyone who understood the principles of astronomy or geometry. What's truly remarkable is how these structures served multiple purposes. They weren't just static repositories of knowledge, they were active tools for teaching and governance. Imagine a ruler standing at the top of a pyramid during a solstice, the sun casting a shadow that aligns perfectly with a sacred symbol. This wasn't just a display of power. It was a demonstration of the ruler's connection to the divine, a way to reinforce their authority by linking it to the eternal rhythms of the cosmos. In this way, architecture became a living, breathing medium for preserving and transmitting the wisdom of the ages. So, the next time you see a photograph of an ancient pyramid or temple, don't just see it as a relic of the past. See it as a testament to human ingenuity, a way for our ancestors to speak to us across time, sharing their understanding of the world and their place within it. These structures remind us that knowledge isn't always written in books. Sometimes it's carved in stone, aligned with the stars and built to last. Imagine walking into a vast hall filled with towering shelves, each one packed with thousands of scrolls and tablets containing the wisdom of the ages. This wasn't just a dream. It was the reality of libraries like the legendary Library of Alexandria and the Royal Library of Nineveh. These ancient institutions were more than just buildings. They were the beating hearts of knowledge in their time, meticulously collecting and preserving the intellectual achievements of entire civilizations. But how did these libraries come to be, and what made them so extraordinary? In Alexandria, the library was a marvel of its era, said to house over 500,000 scrolls. Scholars from across the Mediterranean flocked to its halls, drawn by its reputation as the greatest repository of knowledge in the ancient world. It wasn't just a place to store books. It was a center of learning where thinkers exchanged ideas, debated philosophies, and pushed the boundaries of what humanity understood about the cosmos, medicine, and mathematics. Similarly, in Nineveh, the Assyrian king Ashurbanipal built a library that rivaled Alexandria's, filled with cuneiform tablets that captured everything from epic poetry to detailed astronomical observations. These libraries didn't just preserve knowledge, they curated it, organizing texts by subject and creating some of the earliest systems of cataloging. Yet, these institutions faced immense challenges. Scrolls and tablets were fragile, vulnerable to fire, moisture, and the ravages of time. The sheer effort required to copy texts by hand meant that preserving knowledge was a labor-intensive process, often dependent on the dedication of scribes who spent their lives meticulously transcribing works. And then there were the threats from outside wars, invasions, and political upheavals that could erase centuries of accumulated wisdom in a single moment. The destruction of the Library of Alexandria, whether by fire, conquest, or a combination of both, remains one of history's greatest intellectual tragedies. The loss of such a vast collection of texts meant that countless works, including the writings of some of antiquity's greatest minds, were lost forever. But even in the face of such losses, the legacy of these ancient libraries endures. They remind us of the enduring human desire to understand, to preserve, and to share knowledge. They were more than just repositories. They were symbols of hope, places where the past could speak to the future. And while their physical structures may have crumbled, the idea they embodied, that knowledge is worth protecting lives on, inspiring us to continue their mission in our own time. Religious institutions have long stood as guardians of wisdom, their walls echoing with the whispers of centuries-old knowledge. In medieval Europe, monasteries became sanctuaries not just for spiritual reflection, but for the meticulous preservation of ancient texts. Monks, often working in dimly lit scriptoriums, dedicated their lives to copying manuscripts by hand, works of philosophy, science, and literature that might otherwise have been lost to time. These sacred spaces became libraries of the ages, where the written word was treated as a divine gift, worthy of protection and reverence. Meanwhile, across the globe in Asia, Buddhist monasteries played a similar role. Monks meticulously transcribed and safeguarded sacred scriptures, often written on fragile materials like palm leaves or silk. These texts weren't just religious teachings, they contained insights into medicine, astronomy, and philosophy, reflecting the interconnectedness of spiritual and worldly knowledge. The monasteries became centers of learning where scholars and seekers alike could access this wealth of information, ensuring its survival through generations. But why did religious institutions take on this monumental task? For many, the act of preserving knowledge was seen as a form of devotion, a way to honor the divine by protecting the wisdom it inspired. In a world where wars, natural disasters, and political upheavals threatened to erase the past, these organizations offered stability. Their commitment to safeguarding knowledge wasn't just about faith. It was about ensuring that the intellectual and cultural achievements of humanity endured. The impact of their efforts is immeasurable. Without the tireless work of monks and religious scribes, countless works from ancient Greece, Rome, India, and China might have vanished forever. These institutions didn't just preserve knowledge, they became bridges between civilizations, allowing ideas to flow across time and geography. And while their methods may seem antiquated today, their legacy reminds us of the enduring power of dedication and the importance of protecting the stories and discoveries that define us. The night sky has always been more than just a canvas of stars. It was humanity's first clock, calendar, and guidebook. Ancient civilizations, from the Maya to the Greeks, turned their gaze upward, not just to marvel at the cosmos, but to decode its rhythms. By tracking the movements of the sun, moon, and planets, they developed systems to measure time, predict seasonal changes, and organize their lives. This wasn't just science, it was survival. And the tools they created to preserve this knowledge are some of the most fascinating artifacts in history. Take the Mayan calendar, for example. Far more than a simple way to count days, it was a masterpiece of astronomical precision. The Maya didn't just track time, they understood it in cycles, some spanning thousands of years. Their long count calendar, combined with the sacred Tzolk'in and the solar Hob, allowed them to predict celestial events with remarkable accuracy. This wasn't just about planting crops or marking festivals. It was about embedding their understanding of the universe into the very fabric of their culture. And thanks to their meticulous record-keeping, we can still unravel their insights today. Then there's the Antikythera mechanism, a device so advanced it's often called the world's first analog computer. Discovered in a shipwreck off the coast of Greece, this intricate bronze machine dates back over 2,000 years. Its gears and dials were designed to predict astronomical positions, eclipses, and even the timing of the Olympic Games. Imagine the ingenuity required to craft such a device without modern tools or technology. The Antikythera mechanism wasn't just a tool. It was a testament to how deeply ancient societies valued and preserved their knowledge of the stars. But why did these civilizations go to such lengths? The answer lies in the practical applications of their discoveries. For agricultural societies, knowing when to plant and harvest was crucial. For seafaring cultures, understanding the stars meant safer navigation. And for rulers, controlling this knowledge often meant holding power over their people. These systems weren't just scientific achievements, they were the building blocks of civilization itself. What's even more fascinating is how this ancient knowledge influenced later societies. The Mayan calendar's cyclical view of time echoes in modern discussions about cosmic cycles. The principles behind the Antikythera mechanism laid the groundwork for the clocks and computers we rely on today. By preserving their understanding of the cosmos, these ancient civilizations didn't just shape their own worlds, they left a legacy that continues to shape ours. So the next time you look up at the night sky, remember, you're not just seeing stars, you're witnessing the same celestial patterns that guided ancient farmers, navigators, and scholars. And in their efforts to preserve this knowledge, they created something timeless, a bridge between the past and the present, written in the language of the heavens. Long before the written word, art was humanity's first language, a universal medium that transcended borders and time. Imagine standing in a dimly lit cave, running your hand over the rough surface of a wall etched with ancient paintings. These weren't just random scribbles, they were deliberate, meaningful expressions. Early humans used art to document their world, from hunting scenes that served as survival guides to celestial patterns that tracked the seasons. Through symbols and imagery, they encoded stories, beliefs, and even practical knowledge, creating a visual library that outlasted the spoken word. Take, for instance, the famous cave paintings of Lascaux in France. These intricate depictions of animals and human figures weren't merely decorative. They were a way to share critical information about prey behavior, migration patterns, and hunting techniques. Similarly, the Aboriginal rock art of Australia, some of which dates back tens of thousands of years, tells stories of creation, spirituality, and the relationship between humans and the natural world. These artworks weren't just for the eyes of the present, they were messages to the future, carefully crafted to endure. As civilizations grew more complex, so did their art. The Egyptians, for example, used hieroglyphs, a blend of images and symbols, to record everything from religious rituals to historical events. Their temples and tombs were adorned with murals that served as both spiritual guides and historical archives. Even the vibrant mosaics of ancient Rome, often seen as mere decoration, carried layers of meaning. They depicted myths, celebrated victories, and even offered moral lessons, ensuring that the values and stories of their culture were passed down through generations. But art wasn't just about preserving the past. It was also a way to communicate ideas that words alone couldn't capture. Think of the intricate mandalas of Buddhism or the geometric patterns in Islamic art. These designs weren't just visually stunning, they encoded philosophical and mathematical concepts, inviting viewers to explore deeper truths. In this way, art became a bridge between the tangible and the abstract, allowing ancient cultures to preserve not just what they knew, but how they thought. Today, these ancient artworks are more than relics of the past. They're windows into the minds of those who came before us. By studying the symbols, colors, and compositions, we can piece together the beliefs, values, and daily lives of ancient societies. It's a reminder that art, in all its forms, is one of humanity's most enduring tools for preserving knowledge, a testament to our shared desire to leave a mark to say, "We were here and this is what we knew." Imagine a world without the precision of geometry or the ingenuity of aqueducts. How different our lives would be. Ancient civilizations didn't just stumble upon these breakthroughs, they meticulously developed and preserved them, ensuring their knowledge could outlast the test of time. The Greeks, for instance, laid the foundation for modern mathematics through the work of thinkers like Euclid, whose textbook, Elements, became a cornerstone of mathematical education for centuries. This wasn't just a collection of ideas, it was a carefully structured system of proofs and principles designed to teach and inspire future generations. Euclid's work was so enduring that it was copied, translated, and studied across cultures, from the Islamic world to Renaissance Europe. But mathematics wasn't just an abstract exercise for these ancient minds, it was a tool for solving real-world problems. The Romans, masters of engineering, took these mathematical principles and applied them to create structures that still leave us in awe today. Think about their aqueducts, which brought fresh water to bustling cities like Rome, sometimes from sources dozens of miles away. These weren't just random constructions, they were feats of precise calculation, relying on advanced understanding of angles, slopes, and material strength. The knowledge to build such systems was recorded in detailed manuals and passed down through apprenticeships, ensuring that each generation could build upon the last. What's fascinating is how these civilizations preserved their knowledge. The Greeks and Romans didn't just rely on oral traditions or trial and error, they wrote everything down. Texts like Vitruvius's De Architectura became essential guides, blending mathematical theory with practical engineering advice. These works were copied and recopied by scholars, sometimes surviving in monasteries during the Middle Ages when much of the ancient world's knowledge might have been lost. It's a testament to their foresight that they understood the importance of documentation, ensuring their discoveries could be rediscovered and built upon by future civilizations. This blend of theory and practice, of recording and sharing, is what allowed these ancient advancements to endure. From the precise calculations of Greek geometry to the towering arches of Roman aqueducts, the legacy of these ancient mathematicians and engineers lives on, not just in the ruins we marvel at today, but in the very foundations of modern science and technology. Their work reminds us that knowledge, when preserved, has the power to transcend time and shape the future. Ancient civilizations understood the human body in ways that still leave us in awe today. Take Ayurveda, for example. This system of medicine, which originated in India over 3,000 years ago, wasn't just about treating illness. It was a holistic approach to health, blending physical, mental, and spiritual well-being. Texts like the Charaka Samhita meticulously documented everything from herbal remedies to surgical techniques, creating a foundation of knowledge that was passed down through generations. What's fascinating is how this wisdom wasn't just locked away in scrolls or manuscripts. It was also preserved through oral traditions, with teachers passing their insights to students in a living, breathing chain of learning. Meanwhile, halfway across the world, ancient Greece was developing its own medical legacy. The Hippocratic texts, attributed to the famed physician Hippocrates, revolutionized how people thought about medicine. Instead of attributing diseases to the whims of gods, these writings emphasized observation, diagnosis, and natural causes. The famous Hippocratic Oath, still recited by doctors today, is just one example of how this ancient knowledge has endured. But it wasn't just the Greeks and Indians. Cultures from China to Egypt were also recording their medical discoveries, often in ways that were surprisingly advanced for their time. The Ebers Papyrus, an Egyptian medical text dating back to around 1500 BC, describes treatments for everything from wounds to digestive issues, proving that even thousands of years ago, people were deeply invested in understanding and healing the human body. What's remarkable is how these ancient systems didn't just fade into history, they became the building blocks for modern medicine. The concept of balancing bodily humors in Ayurveda and Greek medicine, for instance, evolved into our understanding of homeostasis. Even the idea of a doctor-patient relationship, rooted in trust and ethical practice, has its origins in these ancient traditions. By documenting their knowledge so carefully, these civilizations ensured that their discoveries could survive the test of time, influencing healers and scientists for centuries to come. And while we've come a long way since then, there's something humbling about realizing how much of our modern medical wisdom has roots in the distant past. Imagine a world where the wisdom of the past could vanish in an instant, lost to the sands of time. Yet, thanks to the ingenuity of ancient civilizations, the profound teachings of philosophers like Confucius, Socrates, and Buddha were meticulously preserved, ensuring their ideas would echo through the ages. These thinkers didn't just ponder life's biggest questions, they laid the groundwork for moral and ethical systems that still guide us today. But how did their ideas survive thousands of years? The answer lies in a combination of written texts and the power of oral traditions, each playing a crucial role in safeguarding this invaluable knowledge. Take Confucius, for example. His teachings on harmony, respect, and social order were first recorded by his disciples in texts like the Analects. These writings became the backbone of East Asian culture, influencing everything from family values to government systems. But it wasn't just the written word that carried his ideas forward. For centuries, Confucian principles were passed down orally from teacher to student, parent to child, ensuring they remained alive in the hearts and minds of people long before they were widely read. Socrates, on the other hand, left no written records of his own. Instead, his student Plato became the vessel for his ideas, documenting their dialogues in works like the Republic. This method of preservation, through the voices of others, allowed Socrates' questions about justice, truth, and the good life to resonate far beyond his time. And let's not forget the Buddha, whose teachings were initially shared through oral recitations by his followers. These spoken words were later compiled into texts like the Pali Canon, creating a bridge between ancient wisdom and future generations. What's remarkable is how these philosophies didn't just survive. They thrived, adapting to new cultures and contexts while retaining their core principles. Confucianism shaped the moral fabric of East Asia, Socratic thought laid the foundation for Western philosophy, and Buddhist ethics continue to inspire mindfulness and compassion worldwide. These ideas weren't just preserved, they were actively woven into the fabric of human society, proving that the quest for understanding and virtue is timeless. So, the next time you reflect on what it means to live a good life or consider the principles that guide your decisions, remember, you're tapping into a legacy of thought that has been carefully nurtured for millennia. These ancient philosophers didn't just leave behind words. They left a blueprint for humanity, one that continues to inspire, challenge, and unite us across cultures and centuries. Among the most enduring legacies of ancient civilizations are their legal codes, meticulously crafted systems of rules that shaped societies and laid the groundwork for justice as we know it today. Take, for example, the Code of Hammurabi, carved into a towering stone stele nearly 4,000 years ago in ancient Babylon. This wasn't just a list of laws. It was a bold declaration of order, fairness, and accountability. Hammurabi's code, with its famous principle of an eye for an eye, wasn't just about punishment, it was about creating a sense of balance and predictability in a world that could often feel chaotic. But how did these ancient legal systems survive the test of time? The answer lies in the way they were recorded. Unlike oral traditions, which could shift and fade with each retelling, written legal codes were permanent. They were etched into stone, inscribed on clay tablets, or written on papyrus scrolls, ensuring that the rules governing society could be referenced, studied, and passed down through generations. The Romans took this a step further with their 12 tables, a set of laws displayed publicly in the heart of Rome. These laws weren't hidden away, they were accessible to all, a reminder that justice should be transparent and universal. What's fascinating is how these ancient legal systems continue to influence us today. The principles of fairness, accountability, and the rule of law that were encoded in Hammurabi's stele, or the 12 tables, are still at the core of modern legal systems around the world. Think about it. When you hear terms like innocent until proven guilty or equal protection under the law, you're hearing echoes of ideas that were first formalized thousands of years ago. These ancient codes didn't just preserve knowledge, they preserved a vision of how societies could function harmoniously, a vision that has shaped civilizations for millennia. And yet, these legal codes were more than just practical tools. They were also symbols of power and authority. By creating and preserving these documents, rulers like Hammurabi and the leaders of Rome weren't just organizing their societies, they were asserting their legitimacy. They were saying, "This is how we govern, and this is why we deserve to lead." In a way, these legal codes were the ancient world's way of saying, "We are here to stay," a declaration that has resonated across the centuries. One of the most fascinating ways ancient civilizations preserved knowledge was through their meticulous documentation of trade and economic activities. Across cultures, from Mesopotamia to Egypt, detailed records of transactions, taxes, and goods were carefully inscribed on durable materials like clay tablets and papyrus. These artifacts, some of which have survived for thousands of years, offer us a window into the bustling marketplaces and complex economies of the past. Take, for example, the clay tablets from ancient Mesopotamia. These records often listed the quantities of goods traded, the names of buyers and sellers, and even the prices agreed upon. Imagine a merchant in the city of Ur, carefully etching into wet clay the details of a transaction involving grain or textiles. Once dried, these tablets became permanent records, safeguarding the details of economic exchanges for future generations. Similarly, in Egypt, papyrus scrolls documented everything from grain shipments along the Nile to taxes collected by the pharaoh's officials. These records weren't just administrative tools. They were the lifeblood of ancient economies, ensuring fairness, accountability, and continuity. What makes these economic records so significant is how they reveal the interconnectedness of ancient societies. Through trade logs, we can trace the movement of goods across vast distances, from the lapis lazuli mines of Afghanistan to the bustling ports of the Mediterranean. These records show us that ancient civilizations were far more connected than we might assume, with trade networks spanning continents and seas. They also highlight the ingenuity of early record-keeping systems, which laid the groundwork for modern accounting and commerce. But beyond their practical uses, these economic records tell us something profound about the values of these societies. They reflect a deep respect for order, fairness, and the importance of preserving knowledge for future generations. Whether it was a Mesopotamian merchant tracking his inventory or an Egyptian scribe recording temple offerings, these individuals understood that their work was more than just numbers on a page. It was a way to ensure stability and prosperity for their communities. As we uncover more of these ancient records, we gain not only a clearer picture of how these economies functioned, but also a deeper appreciation for the foresight of those who kept them. They remind us that even thousands of years ago, people recognized the importance of documenting their world, leaving behind a legacy that continues to inform and inspire us today. Knowledge wasn't just stored in scrolls or etched into stone. It was also carried forward through the minds of people. In ancient civilizations, education and apprenticeships became the living vessels that preserved and transmitted wisdom across generations. Think about it. While written records were invaluable, they were often limited to the elite. But through teaching and hands-on learning, knowledge could reach a wider audience, ensuring it didn't just survive, it thrived. Take ancient Greece, for example. This was a society that valued intellectual pursuit as much as physical strength. Philosophers like Plato didn't just write down their ideas. They founded institutions like his famous academy to teach them. Here, students didn't just memorize facts. They engaged in debates, explored complex theories, and questioned the world around them. This wasn't just about preserving knowledge. It was about expanding it, ensuring that each generation built on the discoveries of the last. But education wasn't limited to the halls of philosophy. Across cultures, skilled craftsmen played a vital role in passing down their expertise. Whether it was a blacksmith shaping metal or a potter crafting intricate designs, these artisans relied on apprenticeships to train the next generation. Imagine a young apprentice watching their master's every move, learning not just the techniques but the intuition and creativity behind them. This wasn't just rote learning. It was a deep, immersive process that preserved not only the how, but also the why of their craft. This system of learning wasn't just practical, it was deeply personal. Masters didn't just teach skills, they passed down traditions, values, and even the stories behind their work. In this way, knowledge became more than just information. It became a legacy, a connection between the past and the future. And while the methods might have varied from the philosophical discussions of Greece to the hands-on training of artisans, the goal was the same: to ensure that the wisdom of one generation became the foundation for the next. It's fascinating to think how these ancient systems still echo in our world today. The idea of learning through mentorship, of combining theory with practice, of passing down not just skills but the passion behind them, these are timeless principles that continue to shape how we preserve and share knowledge. The ancients understood something profound, that knowledge is only as enduring as the people who carry it forward, and through their systems of education and apprenticeship, they made sure that knowledge didn't just survive, it lived on. Long before the written word became widespread, ancient civilizations relied on something far more dynamic: festivals and rituals, to keep their stories, traditions, and wisdom alive. These weren't just celebrations, they were living libraries where knowledge was passed down through the power of collective experience. Imagine a gathering under the stars where the rhythm of drums, the swirl of dancers, and the voices of storytellers carried the weight of centuries. This was how history was preserved, not in ink or stone, but in the hearts and minds of the people. Take, for instance, the festivals of ancient Egypt, where the annual flooding of the Nile was marked with elaborate ceremonies. These events weren't just about celebrating the river's life-giving waters. They were a way to teach the next generation about the cycles of nature, the importance of agriculture, and the gods who governed their world. Through songs, dances, and dramatic reenactments, the community absorbed lessons about survival, spirituality, and their place in the cosmos. It was knowledge made unforgettable, wrapped in the vivid colors of celebration. Similarly, in ancient Greece, the Dionysia festival was more than just a theatrical spectacle. It was a cultural cornerstone, blending art with education. Playwrights like Aeschylus and Sophocles used their dramas to explore moral dilemmas, political ideas, and historical events. The audience didn't just watch. They participated in a shared experience that reinforced societal values and transmitted wisdom. The stories told on stage weren't mere entertainment. They were lessons in disguise, ensuring that the collective memory of the civilization endured. Even today, we can see echoes of this tradition in indigenous cultures around the world. The oral histories of the Maori, the ceremonial dances of Native American tribes, and the storytelling festivals of West Africa all serve the same purpose. They remind us that knowledge isn't just something to be recorded, it's something to be felt, lived, and shared. These rituals create a bridge between the past and the present, ensuring that the essence of a culture survives long after its original context fades. What's remarkable about these practices is their universality. Whether it was the firelit gatherings of ancient Celtic tribes or the vibrant processions of Mesoamerican civilizations, festivals and rituals served as a communal classroom. They transformed abstract ideas into tangible experiences, making history personal and immediate. And in doing so, they ensured that the wisdom of the ancestors wasn't just remembered. It was relived generation after generation. The vast, uncharted oceans of the ancient world were both a challenge and a canvas for human ingenuity. To navigate these endless waters, ancient seafarers relied on a combination of celestial wisdom, oral traditions, and meticulous records. Imagine setting sail across the Pacific with no GPS or compass, guided only by the stars above. This was the reality for the Polynesians, whose mastery of celestial navigation allowed them to voyage thousands of miles across open water, discovering and settling remote islands long before modern technology existed. Their knowledge wasn't just about survival, it was a testament to their deep connection with the natural world. The Polynesians weren't alone in their quest to preserve navigation knowledge. Across the globe, ancient mariners developed star charts, detailed maps of the night sky that linked specific celestial bodies to key locations on Earth. These charts, often passed down through generations, became invaluable tools for sailors. But it wasn't just about the stars. Oral traditions played a crucial role in preserving this knowledge. Stories, songs, and chants encoded intricate details about winds, currents, and landmarks, ensuring that even without written records, the wisdom of the seas could endure. Written records, too, became a cornerstone of navigation knowledge. The Phoenicians, renowned traders of the ancient Mediterranean, documented their voyages extensively, creating some of the earliest known sailing logs. These records not only preserved their routes but also laid the groundwork for future explorers. It's fascinating to think about how these ancient methods of preserving knowledge, whether through the stars, stories, or scrolls, shaped the course of human history. They didn't just connect islands and continents, they connected cultures, ideas, and civilizations. The impact of this preserved knowledge was profound. It enabled trade routes to flourish, from the spice-laden voyages of the Indian Ocean to the bustling ports of the Mediterranean. It allowed distant societies to exchange goods, technologies, and philosophies, weaving a web of global connectivity that still influences us today. The Polynesians, the Phoenicians, and countless other ancient navigators remind us that exploration isn't just about discovery, it's about the enduring legacy of knowledge passed down across generations, guiding humanity toward new horizons. Even in the ancient world, agriculture wasn't just about planting seeds and hoping for the best. It was a science honed over generations, and civilizations went to great lengths to preserve this knowledge. From the Fertile Crescent of Mesopotamia to the terraced fields of the Andes, ancient farmers developed sophisticated techniques like crop rotation and irrigation, ensuring their communities thrived even in challenging environments. But how did they ensure these practices survived the test of time? The answer lies in a combination of written records and hands-on tradition. Take, for example, the Sumerians, one of the earliest known civilizations. They etched their agricultural wisdom into clay tablets, documenting everything from the ideal planting seasons to the best irrigation methods. These texts weren't just for scholars, they were practical guides, designed to be passed down to future generations. Similarly, in ancient China, agricultural manuals like the Kai Min Yao Shu detailed advanced farming techniques, including how to rotate crops to maintain soil fertility. These weren't just theories, they were tried and true methods that kept entire civilizations fed. But it wasn't all about writing. Much of this knowledge was preserved through practice. Farmers teaching their children, apprentices learning from masters, and entire communities working together to refine their methods. Think of it as an ancient version of learning by doing. For instance, the Mayans developed intricate irrigation systems that captured rainwater and channeled it to their crops. These systems weren't just built once and forgotten. They were maintained and improved over centuries, with each generation adding its own insights. What's fascinating is how these ancient practices still resonate today. Modern sustainable farming techniques often draw inspiration from these time-tested methods. Crop rotation, for example, is still widely used to prevent soil depletion, and irrigation systems have evolved but remain rooted in the same principles of efficiency and resource management. It's a testament to how deeply these ancient civilizations understood the balance between humanity and nature, a balance we're still striving to achieve today. So, the next time you enjoy a meal, take a moment to think about the centuries of knowledge that went into producing it. From the scribes who wrote down farming techniques to the farmers who perfected them, these ancient practices were more than just survival strategies, they were the foundation of human progress. And through their careful preservation, they've shaped the way we grow and share food, even in the modern world. One of the most fascinating ways ancient civilizations preserved their knowledge was through the intricate world of textiles and craftsmanship. Imagine a time when every thread woven, every dye mixed, and every pattern crafted was more than just a piece of fabric. It was a living record of culture, identity, and innovation. Across the globe, from the Andes to the Nile Valley, the art of weaving and crafting became a cornerstone of societal memory. But how did these skills survive the test of time? The answer lies in a combination of hands-on apprenticeships and meticulous record-keeping, ensuring that the secrets of the loom and the dye pot were never lost. In the highlands of the Andes, the ancient civilizations of the Inca and their predecessors mastered the art of textile production to an astonishing degree. Their fabrics, woven with precision and dyed in vibrant colors, were not just utilitarian objects, but also symbols of status, spirituality, and community identity. What's remarkable is how this knowledge was passed down. Young apprentices would spend years learning from master weavers, observing every motion, every technique, until they could replicate the process flawlessly. But it wasn't just about repetition. These apprenticeships were deeply intertwined with storytelling. Each pattern, each stitch carried meaning, and as the apprentices learned, they also absorbed the cultural narratives woven into the fabric. Beyond the loom, detailed records played a crucial role in preserving these techniques. While many ancient civilizations lacked written languages as we know them today, they found ingenious ways to document their craft. For instance, some cultures used knotted cords, like the quipu of the Inca, to encode information about textile production, including dye recipes, thread counts, and even the symbolism behind certain designs. Others relied on oral traditions, with elders passing down stories and instructions through generations. This blend of hands-on learning and systematic documentation ensured that the knowledge of weaving and dyeing remained intact, even as empires rose and fell. But textiles were more than just a medium for preserving knowledge. They were also a testament to technological ingenuity. The Andean civilizations, for example, developed complex looms and tools that allowed them to create fabrics of unparalleled quality. Some of these textiles were so finely woven that they rival modern machine-made fabrics, a testament to the skill and dedication of ancient artisans. And it wasn't just about the tools. The dyes themselves were a marvel. Natural pigments derived from plants, minerals, and even insects were carefully mixed to produce colors that have remained vibrant for centuries, a testament to the deep understanding of chemistry and material science these cultures possessed. What's truly striking is how these ancient practices continue to resonate today. In many parts of the world, traditional weaving and dyeing techniques are still practiced, often using methods that haven't changed for thousands of years. This enduring legacy is a reminder of how knowledge, when carefully preserved and passed down, can transcend time, connecting us to the wisdom of those who came before. Through textiles, we catch a glimpse of the past, not just as a static record, but as a living, breathing testament to human creativity and resilience. Imagine standing in the heart of an ancient village, surrounded by the hypnotic beat of drums and the fluid motions of dancers. These weren't just performances, they were libraries in motion. Music and dance, far more than mere entertainment, were the lifeblood of cultural preservation for countless ancient societies. Through rhythm and movement, entire histories, mythologies, and values were passed down from one generation to the next, ensuring that the essence of a civilization lived on long after its monuments crumbled. Take, for example, the griots of West Africa. These storytellers, musicians, and historians didn't rely on written records. Instead, they used intricate rhythms, melodies, and dances to encode the lineage of kings, the triumphs of warriors, and the wisdom of ancestors. Each beat of the drum, each step of the dance, carried layers of meaning, transforming a simple performance into a living archive. It's a bit like a song you can't forget. Once you hear it, the story it tells sticks with you, even if you don't fully understand the language. But it wasn't just about storytelling. Music and dance also served as a communal glue, connecting people to their shared identity. In ancient Greece, for instance, the choral dances performed during religious festivals weren't just artistic expressions, they were acts of unity. Through synchronized movements and harmonious singing, participants reinforced their connection to the gods, their city-state, and each other. It's a powerful reminder that art, in its purest form, isn't just for the individual, it's for the collective. Even in the Americas, indigenous cultures used dance as a way to preserve sacred knowledge. The Navajo, for example, have long performed ceremonial dances that recount creation stories and honor the natural world. Every gesture, every chant, is a thread in the tapestry of their heritage, meticulously woven to ensure that the wisdom of their ancestors endures. It's a beautiful testament to how art can transcend time, carrying the soul of a culture forward through the ages. What's fascinating is how universal this practice seems to be. From the swirling Sufi dances of Persia to the intricate hula of Polynesia, music and dance have been humanity's way of saying, "This is who we are, and this is what we stand for." Even today, when we hear a traditional song or watch a cultural dance, we're not just witnessing art. We're stepping into a doorway that leads to the past, offering us a glimpse of the world as it once was. And in that way, these ancient practices aren't just records, they're bridges connecting us to the stories that shaped us all. One of the most fascinating ways ancient civilizations preserved their knowledge was through the meticulous study and documentation of language. Take Sanskrit, for example, a language often referred to as the mother of languages. Its intricate grammar, recorded in texts like Panini's Ashtadhyayi, wasn't just a tool for communication. It was a blueprint for preserving ideas, poetry, and philosophy. Similarly, Latin, the language of the Roman Empire, became a cornerstone for legal, scientific, and literary traditions that shaped Western civilization. These languages weren't just spoken, they were carefully studied, analyzed, and written down, ensuring their survival across centuries. But how exactly did ancient societies record their linguistic knowledge? The answer lies in their dedication to creating detailed grammatical rules and vocabularies. Think of it like building a time capsule, but instead of burying objects, they preserved the very structure of their language. Sanskrit scholars, for instance, developed complex systems to describe verb conjugations, noun cases, and sentence structures. These systems were so precise that even today, scholars can reconstruct ancient texts with remarkable accuracy. Latin, on the other hand, was recorded in everything from legal codes to epic poems, each document offering a glimpse into the values, beliefs, and daily lives of its speakers. The preservation of language wasn't just about grammar and vocabulary, though. It was also about storytelling. Ancient texts like the Vedas or the works of Virgil weren't just collections of words. They were repositories of cultural memory. They carried myths, moral lessons, and historical accounts, all encoded in the rhythm and structure of their language. By studying these texts, modern linguists and historians can uncover how ancient people viewed the world, from their relationships with the divine to their understanding of the natural world. What makes this even more remarkable is how these ancient languages influenced later cultures. Sanskrit, for instance, gave rise to many modern Indian languages and even influenced languages as far away as Southeast Asia. Latin, meanwhile, evolved into the Romance languages and remained the lingua franca of scholars and clergy in Europe for centuries. The study of these languages isn't just an academic exercise. It's a way to trace the roots of human civilization itself. So, the next time you hear a word or phrase that feels ancient or timeless, remember, it might be carrying the echoes of a civilization long gone. Language isn't just a tool for communication. It's a bridge connecting us to the past, a living record of how our ancestors thought, spoke, and dreamed. From the quiet halls of libraries to the chaotic fields of battle, ancient civilizations understood that the art of warfare was as much about strategy as it was about strength. One of the most enduring examples of this wisdom comes from Sun Tzu, a Chinese general whose work, The Art of War, remains a cornerstone of military thought even today. Written over 2,000 years ago, this text wasn't just a manual for soldiers. It was a philosophical guide that emphasized cunning, adaptability, and the importance of understanding both your enemy and yourself. Sun Tzu's ideas weren't confined to his own time. They were meticulously copied and passed down, eventually influencing leaders across the globe, from ancient China to modern boardrooms. But the preservation of military knowledge didn't stop with Sun Tzu. The Romans, known for their engineering marvels, were equally meticulous in documenting their military strategies. Roman legions weren't just armies, they were highly organized units that relied on discipline, training, and detailed planning. Texts like Vegetius's De Re Militari became essential reading, offering insights into everything from troop formations to siege tactics. These writings weren't just archived, they were actively studied and adapted by later generations, shaping the way wars were fought for centuries. What's fascinating is how these ancient strategies transcended their original contexts. For example, the Roman concept of the testudo, or tortoise formation, where soldiers locked their shields together to create an impenetrable shell, wasn't just effective in ancient battles. Variations of this tactic were later used in medieval sieges and even inspired modern military strategies. Similarly, Sun Tzu's, whose emphasis on psychological warfare and deception found new life in guerrilla tactics and modern-day diplomacy. These weren't just fleeting ideas, they were timeless principles, preserved through careful documentation and passed down like a torch from one era to the next. The methods of preserving this knowledge were as varied as the strategies themselves. In some cases, it was through detailed manuscripts, painstakingly copied by scribes. In others, it was through oral traditions, where generals and soldiers shared their experiences directly with the next generation. And then there were training exercises, where theoretical knowledge was put into practice, ensuring that the lessons of the past were not just remembered but ingrained. What makes these ancient texts and practices so remarkable is their adaptability. They weren't rigid rules but flexible frameworks that could be adjusted to fit new challenges. This adaptability is perhaps why they've endured for so long, influencing not just military leaders but also business strategists, political thinkers, and even athletes. The lessons of Sun Tzu and the Romans remind us that knowledge, when preserved and applied thoughtfully, has the power to shape the future as much as it reflects the past. Have you ever wondered how ancient civilizations thrived for centuries without the technology we rely on today? One of their greatest secrets lies in their deep understanding of the natural world around them. From the dense rainforests of the Amazon to the arid deserts of Mesopotamia, ancient peoples meticulously observed and recorded the rhythms of their environments. They didn't just survive, they flourished by harnessing the wisdom of the land, and they left behind a treasure trove of ecological knowledge that still resonates today. Take, for example, the ancient Egyptians. Along the banks of the Nile, they developed a sophisticated understanding of seasonal flooding. By carefully tracking the river cycles, they created irrigation systems that maximized crop yields and sustained their civilization for thousands of years. This wasn't just luck. It was a testament to their ability to observe, document, and adapt to the environment. Similarly, indigenous peoples in the Americas cultivated an intricate knowledge of medicinal plants, using them to treat ailments long before modern medicine existed. These practices weren't just passed down orally. They were often recorded in detailed texts, carvings, or even woven into the fabric of their daily lives. But how did they preserve this knowledge? In many cases, it was a combination of oral traditions, written records, and practical application. The ancient Chinese, for instance, compiled extensive herbal texts like the Shenong Ben Cao Jing, which cataloged hundreds of plants and their medicinal uses. Meanwhile, the Maya recorded astronomical and agricultural cycles in their codices, blending environmental wisdom with celestial observations. These methods ensured that critical information about weather patterns, plant properties, and ecological balance was preserved for future generations. What's truly fascinating is how this ancient knowledge is finding new life in modern sustainability efforts. Today, scientists and environmentalists are turning to these historical records to address contemporary challenges like climate change and deforestation. For example, traditional farming techniques such as crop rotation and agroforestry are being revived to combat soil degradation and promote biodiversity. Even modern medicine is rediscovering the potential of ancient herbal remedies, with researchers studying indigenous plant knowledge to develop new treatments. This connection between the past and present highlights a powerful truth. The way we interact with our environment today is deeply rooted in the wisdom of those who came before us. By revisiting these ancient practices, we're not just preserving history, we're building a more sustainable future. And perhaps in doing so, we can learn to live in harmony with the natural world, just as our ancestors did. So, the next time you walk through a forest or gaze at the stars, consider the centuries of knowledge that have shaped our understanding of the Earth, and how we might carry that legacy forward. Legends and myths are more than just captivating stories passed down through generations. They are time capsules, preserving fragments of historical truth within their vivid narratives. Picture this: a village elder gathers children around a fire, spinning tales of gods, heroes, and great battles. While these stories seem fantastical, they often hold within them echoes of real events, places, and people. For ancient civilizations, myths and legends were not just entertainment. They were a way to encode and transmit knowledge across centuries. Take, for example, the legend of the Trojan War, immortalized in Homer's Iliad. For centuries, scholars debated whether Troy was a real place or simply a figment of poetic imagination. That is, until the late 19th century, when archaeologists uncovered the ruins of a city in modern-day Turkey that matched the descriptions in the ancient text. The myth, it turns out, was rooted in historical reality. Similarly, the Norse saga's epic tales of Viking voyages and conquests have been found to contain clues about real settlements and seafaring routes, offering modern historians a window into the lives of ancient Scandinavian societies. What's fascinating is how these stories evolved. Over time, details might have been exaggerated or embellished, but the core truths remained intact. Think of it like a game of telephone where the message gets reshaped with each retelling, yet the essence stays recognizable. This oral tradition was a vital tool for civilizations without written records, ensuring that crucial knowledge, whether about geography, survival skills, or cultural values, was never lost. But myths didn't just preserve facts, they also encoded wisdom. Consider the story of Icarus, who flew too close to the sun. While it's a cautionary tale about hubris, it also reflects ancient observations about the dangers of overreaching. A lesson as relevant today as it was thousands of years ago. Stories like these served as both entertainment and education, teaching moral lessons and practical truths in a way that was easy to remember and share. What's remarkable is how universal this practice was. From the Aboriginal Dreamtime stories of Australia to the Epic of Gilgamesh in Mesopotamia, nearly every culture used myths to preserve its history and values. These narratives became the glue that held communities together, passing down not just what happened, but who they were and what they believed in. So, the next time you hear a myth or legend, listen closely. Beneath the dragons, gods, and heroes, there might just be a hidden thread of truth waiting to be unraveled. These stories are more than just tales. They are the echoes of our ancestors speaking to us across the ages. From the whispered stories passed down through generations to the towering stone monuments etched with symbols, ancient civilizations mastered the art of preserving knowledge in ways that still leave us in awe. They understood that memory is fragile, and so they crafted systems, oral traditions, written records, and even architectural marvels to ensure their wisdom would endure. These methods weren't just about survival, they were about legacy. The great libraries of Alexandria, the intricate carvings of Mayan temples, the scrolls hidden in the caves of Dunhuang, each of these was a testament to humanity's relentless drive to preserve what matters most. But what's truly remarkable is how these ancient efforts continue to shape us today. The very concept of recording information, whether on clay tablets or in digital clouds, owes its origins to those early innovators. Their ingenuity laid the foundation for the way we store and share knowledge in the modern world. And yet, as we stand on the shoulders of these giants, we're reminded of an important question. How can we, in our own time, ensure that the wisdom we value today isn't lost to the passage of time? Reflecting on the methods of the past offers us more than just admiration. It provides lessons. The ancient Egyptians, for instance, didn't just carve hieroglyphs into stone for decoration. They did it to withstand the elements, to last for millennia. Similarly, the oral traditions of indigenous cultures around the world were designed to be flexible, adapting to new generations while keeping core truths intact. These strategies weren't just about preservation, they were about resilience, and that's something we can all learn from. So, as we marvel at the achievements of ancient civilizations, let's also consider our own role in this ongoing story. How can we honor their legacy by ensuring that the knowledge we hold dear, whether it's cultural, scientific, or personal, is safeguarded for those who come after us? What steps can we take to ensure that our own wisdom isn't lost to the sands of time? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your perspective. And if you've enjoyed this journey through the mysteries of history, don't forget to subscribe for more explorations into the past. Together, let's keep the conversation alive, just as our ancestors did.